on the role, on the overview. So there's three big important parts of this. First, there's the root cause, the role of the ballot, and the perm, and the solvency. Also, the fact of structural violence in our case being completely ignored, but we're going to get to that later. First, on the root cause argument. All right, on the root cause argument, they're basically saying that is the badness of history, it's the white linear history that is the root cause of everything. First of all, we've already agreed that through the perm, when it's already been broken down, through the discourse, we've already broken down white history, there's no point in the ballot, and basically, since that has already been solved, the root cause has already been solved. Also, we disagree on a more specific level that our evidence, but has been completely ignored in the round, we disagree that we're saying that it's not white history that is leading to women being raped. It's actually a much simpler idea of the fact that in the military right now, command hierarchies silence and ignore women. That's the basic fact of it, that women cannot go to anybody for help. This is a root cause of dehumanization that leads to the genocide, that leads to the fact that they are not more bare life, that they are no longer people. This also leads to the structural violence. To look at a woman and say that she's saying through her own words, through Miss Montoya's words, that the worst part is they didn't have my back, that the worst part is the command doesn't listen to me, and be like, look, you don't know what you're talking about, it's actually history that's causing these men to rape you. Like that's a completely false idea, and you can look through the flow and make that decision for yourself that doesn't make any sense in light of the case's evidence that was completely conceded. So on the root cause, we know what the root cause is the command hierarchies, and if it is a root cause problem that are coming from history, we've already solved that through the perm. Moving on to the perm solvency. First of all, on a solvency flow, they completely conceded our solvency, so we know we can solve. Our solvency was that midshipmen are the ones who need to speak out. When did you hear in the round address midshipmen? When did you hear them say that they can become midshipmen and be the ones to speak out within the ranks? We've already told you that there are people outside the military speaking out on this, but they're not doing anything. It has to be within the military. When this entire round have you heard them address that? When have you heard them address that? Their solvency is conceded to us. It is conceded that as midshipmen, if we speak out, we can solve for structural violence on women. On their solvency, we have been debating this the entire time. Their entire solvency comes from the fact that they can burn down the state. They cannot burn down the state.
Their solvency comes from an investigation of history.
Oh yeah, an investigation of history. We've already investigated. Yeah, we've already investigated history. And on the whole burn down the state argument, we are the state. We are DOD employees. We work for the government. If they're claiming that as soon as this round ends, we're going to poof and disappear, this is not a logical explanation. They're claiming that Obama, that the Congress, that the entire government will disappear because they talked about history. This is not a logical argument at all. We have more specific evidence saying that as soon as you start to discourse about these problems of women violence in the military, we can begin to solve it. On a pure solvency standpoint, there's not even any comparison about. And then also on the state can be reformed, we have direct evidence coming from our Benedict cards and talking about from our Warren and Katie cards that by working within the ranks, you can reform the state. This is from academic scholars, this is from DOD reports within the military. By them making an opinionated statement of state is bad, we need to burn it down somehow, this is even on the same level. The state can be reformed, we need to work within it. We can't allow women to be raped while they wait for the government to be destroyed. Homogenization. First of all, we can say that we have turned this disadvantage and they never once addressed the fact that we turned it on. They homogenize us. They looked at me and my partner and said, oh, white male from the Naval Academy, they know nothing about other cultures, forgetting the fact that he speaks Chinese, I speak Russian, I'm from Texas, he's from Utah, we both have spoke Spanish growing up through high school, and if they, so once again, this whole language argument is completely obsolete. We do speak other languages, we inject other cultures, and so to look at us, homogenize and say, you're a white male, you can't do anything, is first of all offensive, and it also ignores the women and the evidence saying that we're the only ones that can solve. So this turn on their disadvantage, this is offense that they have dropped. Also,
it's an in-round example of them homogenizing.
Exactly, and then on the claims, it's an in-round example of them homogenizing us. On the claims of our homogenization of women, that people experience sexual assault differently, we've talked about how we're trying to solve it for all women. And the fact that we have read, they said that themselves that the way you solve for this is to read from their own statements. So they talked about how you didn't read Miss Montoya's entire statement. Where's the bright line on that? Where's the bright line to where we're talking about someone's story?
How much of her history?
Yeah, how much of her history do we need to include? Like to point that in their own evidence, he only gives snapshot of his life. He's like, that time when my father was pulled over, the time when something bad happened, the time my mother crossed the river. He did not give us a bright line on his entire life story, so turn that right back on him.
Well, and what that means is they simply silence her voice. Her voice is what's important.
Yeah, they're silencing her voice because we didn't read entire history, which is absolutely ridiculous. We need to talk. This is the Pearson evidence that as long as you try to perpetuate a culture of silence, we can never get.
And they silence her voice. That's an in-round example of the Pearson.
Yeah, it's an in-round example of the Pearson evidence where they are silencing her voice. They're not allowing her to be heard. They've never addressed the Pearson evidence, and it goes uncontested.
They said if we presented someone else's voice
in cross-ex, when they said
that's how a good methodology.
In cross-ex, they said a good methodology of presenting someone's voice. We did this through 3 separate examples of World War II, of Iraq, and Afghanistan. You can't let them get out of the representation process when they try to be like, well, you didn't read all the story. This is a new argument. There's no bright line to this and should be rejected. Onto the role of the ballot, and this is where this all comes together. The role of the ballot, they claim it's for liberation. We talked about liberating women from violence, so we meet them on the definition. And we also talk about how they have no solvency, so they can't even do that.
There's no real world solvency.
No real world solvency. Talking about our role in the ballot, whoever ends structural violence, we are midshipmen speaking out. This was conceded. It is conceded that we can end structural violence. Judge, you know what debate is about. Debate is about picking an issue personal to you. My sister in arms is personal to me. I came to debate to speak for them, to have an advocacy for them, to talk about it and say this is a problem we must fix. We came with these reports saying that this is the way to do it. And it will spill over. They come up with these arguments talking about you're a white male, you can't do this. They try to distract and silence these women's voices. No, Judge, you know what debate is about. You know it's about activism. You know it's about picking something personal to us. You need to vote affirmative. We need to end the culture of silence. We need to end dehumanization and rape within the military.
And give this first round of reinforcement. You would be the first one to reinforce.
You'd be the first one to reinforce this.